And then I looked right at the guy that asked me the question, and I go, I love my mugs, but I love money more.
I personally don't trust anybody if they're boasting about themselves. It's like, they're probably defending something.
Right. It's just like people, back in the day, like, yeah, I'm the realest person you ever met. Okay.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Welcome to Players Talk Business Podcast with your host, Darius Jackson, Kayvon Frazier. Today, we got a special guest for our Athlete Investment Academy series, CEO of Fury Athletics, former officer in the Air Force, real estate developer. I could go on and on. Special guest, Jeff Medici. What's going on, Jeff?
I'm just really happy to be here. Have some wine and look at my dragon. I can stare at that all day long.
I know. I wanted to talk about number one, Medici. What a strong name. I had to ask you that before we got on. I said, how do you pronounce that?
So it's actually Medici.
Medici.
We come.
Look, I already messed it up.
We come from Florence, Italy, and the Medici family carries a lot of weight in that country. Going back to the 1500s, the Medici family at one time was the wealthiest family in the world. I wish I could say that some of that wealth has transferred over to me 500 years later. It hasn't, but we're doing our best to try to sort of keep the legacy of the Medici family going by, funding great works of art, like Fury the Dragon, which is right here in South Lake, Texas.
Well, I'd say you're doing well, but
that's crazy. So your family was the richest family in Italy at one point?
No, the richest family in the world.
In the world? Oh
global.
My gosh.
That's
he
said global.
Well, the Medici family we have 4 popes in our family. We funded some of the most amazing works of art that the world has ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
The Sistine Chapel. Most of Michelangelo's work was funded by the Medici family. The Duomo in Florence, Italy. The David. Just some amazing works of art. And that's sort of one of the things that was really important to me when I did my latest development, which is actually the building that we're sitting in right now. It's called District 114. And we're in Roots and Water Wine Club, which is one of our tenants, the private wine club here in the building. But I wanted something really sort of truly unique and different, and really sort of set us up to be a real sort of differentiator. And I could have built. There's a lot of developers build beautiful buildings, but I wanted something that was very unique. So I was shocked when I started thinking about this. Shocked that the city of South Lake is really known. The South Lake Carroll Dragons is known, across the sort of the land. You all would know, in the NFL, there's a lot of NFL players that actually, come from South Lake Carroll.
100%, yep.
Right. And I was shocked to think about the fact that we didn't have a single dragon statue anywhere. My kids were both Carroll Dragons growing up, and it was sort of ingrained in them that, the Carroll Dragon way. And I said, you know what? I think we need to do something like build the world's largest stainless steel dragon right here at District 114 at Kimball Park. And when I told my wife was like, man, I'm going to need to be drilling some more teeth. My wife's a dentist.
Right.
She's like, I'm going to have to pick up a few more shifts at work because how much is this thing going to cost? And that's the number one question I always get asked. I never tell anybody. I'm not telling you guys today. But it was pretty expensive. And but I wanted something that was unique. It's 40 feet, 4 inches wide and 28 and a half feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
It was really a challenge, both from an engineering standpoint and most importantly from a secretive standpoint.
Right.
In trying to keep this sort of secret until the unveiling that we had on August 6, 2021. And I come up with the idea back in 2018 and had shared my thoughts with the mayor. And the mayor was like, if you pull this off, this is really going to be a differentiator for the city. And we kept it quiet for 3 years.
How do you hide that while you were building it?
I feel like a dragon that big, there's no way you could keep that quiet.
Yeah.
People not driving by,
we're building the building at the same time.
Okay.
For the better part of a year and a half, maybe a year and 3 months or so, this was a war zone here. It was right off the highway. You could see it. When you drive down 114, you look right, look left, you see it.
Right.
But I think we were really helped by the fact that COVID was going on. There weren't a whole lot of folks that were sort of moving about in 2020, and when they did drive by, they saw tilt wall panels going up. They saw a lot of construction crews, cranes, and whatnot. So it wasn't really out of place, to have 4 scissor lifts, which is what we brought in while the final construction was being done. It took about 3 weeks to actually final assemble the dragon. It was in 4 pieces. It was made in overseas, and then it was put in 3 shipping containers and brought over the high seas up through the Panama Canal, up to Galveston, and then it was trucked up up to South Lake, Texas. And it was stored on site for about 2 months. And when we were ready, we brought another little mini crane. It was still wrapped, and then brought it in and sort of hoisted it up over 4 scissor lifts that we had 40-foot tarps on, so a square box.
Right.
And we raised the scissor lifts to create sort of a shield around it. And nobody really sort of thought twice about it. Because, there's so much other sort of commotion going on. And the day that we unveiled it on August 6, 2021, there hadn't been a single social media post, a rumor, nothing.
That's
and
crazy.
I thought for sure we had a little
that it was
betting
going to
pool
get
where,
leaked or something.
by April, some people were going to somebody was going to sort of spill the beans. Everybody that knew about it, from the engineering teams to the architect to the artist that I commissioned to build it for me, everybody signed non-disclosure agreements. But I thought for sure somebody was going to tell their spouse, tell their best friend, and then that person has no obligation to keeping the secret, and it just never made it out. And it was great to sort of reveal that to the world.
So fast forward to 2023 now, what has something like that has done for the city of South Lake?
Well, I mean, it's one of the top attractions in the city, right? Obviously, we have South Lake Town Square. Everybody knows about our great outdoor shopping venue here in South Lake. But, the South Lake Fury Dragon we have visitors that come every day, all day, to get their picture underneath. And I think it also helps having the sort of Game of Thrones be as popular as it is right now. One of the things that I was sort of shocked at is I had a vision for what I wanted this dragon to look like. What I didn't realize is because dragon is not real, everybody has their own sort of vision for what a dragon should be. Is it 2 legs? Is it 4 legs? Is it fire breathing? Is it sort of cute and cuddly? And for me, I really felt strong. I went through a number of artists, a number of designs. Ultimately, I ended up finding a guy that sort of shared my vision. He was out in Las Vegas. He used to work for Disney's Imagineering team. And I was really frustrated because it took me about 8 months. I felt like we weren't making any progress. And when I met him over Zoom, then about 30 minutes, he's like, I'm sort of sharing him what my vision is. And he goes, all right, I got it. And I go, you got it?
Yeah.
It's 30 minutes. He's like, I got it. And I'm like, okay. 3 days later, I had a 3D image of sort of transcribing what my vision was into this 3D image. And I'm like, hot damn.
Did you add the Fury Athletics in the tail?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
I had to ask you about that because it could be missed, but it's hard to miss.
So
you're talking about the logo.
Yeah, the logo.
Yeah.
You seen the detail.
I really had no intention of sort of migrating from being a real estate developer to an apparel company owner.
Mm-hmm.
But when, sort of getting back to the sort of the numbers, the dragon was really special to me. And initially it was going to be sort of part of this development. But I carved that out and kept it separate and decided to start a company really with the dragon as sort of the genesis. Mm-hmm. And I started Fury Athletics. We launched in 2021, the same day that the dragon was unveiled in August of 2021, we launched Fury Athletics. And I've always been a big believer in some sort of old school business school concepts. First mover advantage is an important one. I really believe in first mover advantage. And when it comes to the dragon, right? I mean, it's going to be very unlikely that there'll ever be another dragon. I mean, this has become sort of synonymous with the city, right?
So
first mover advantage. First mover advantage.
First mover advantage is...
What does that mean?
The first mover advantage is a concept where the first entry into a new market normally has the advantage, right? They're the first ones in. It doesn't always work that way, but first mover advantage is something that's important when you're entering sort of a new market. They're the first ones that are going through sort of the growing pains of and all the learnings that are associated with being the first to the market.
So you want to be the first?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I heard
the first mover.
I heard kind of opposite of how you don't want to be the first. Like Apple wasn't the first iPhone. It's a bunch of other companies that wasn't the first, but they end up being the biggest. Simply off of learning from other people's mistakes, but
no question.
Your model, you want to be the first.
Well, in a situation like this, I knew that the first mover advantage was of paramount. Nobody could come in after me if I got this right.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not saying that it was easy, right? I mean,
the dragon or the apparel or both?
No, the dragon.
The dragon. Okay,
right. If you got that right, it was going to be impossible for the second mover
Yeah.
to come in and try to duplicate. Just the hurdles would have been, really, really difficult to get over.
Right.
And then that sort of goes to your sort of second concept of one of the business concepts, and that's barriers to entry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to create as many barriers to enter that market as possible, right? So that combination of sort of first mover advantage and then barriers to entry into the market, I think created a situation for us where this really will be the only dragon.
Right.
I mean, it's so difficult to do. And I think, with all of the sort of approvals you have to get from the city council,
Yep.
and it'd be really hard to get that done.
How'd you maneuver through that phase of it, the approvers and stuff? And I know you're associated with.
Well, that was the
South
toughest thing, right? Keeping a secret, and then also making sure that the appropriate folks knew, along the way, and making sure that folks from the city staff, this thing's 16,800 pounds.
Right.
Right. It's got 3 piers that are 18 inches wide, 45 feet deep into the ground. It can withstand up to 110 mile an hour winds. Right. Those are those numbers. Right?
I love it. I love it. I mean, you're so passionate. You're so detailed because it's not only a reflection of the city of Southlake, but it's a reflection of you and your work. And I it represents so much, and I can tell you're so passionate about it, and it's so impressive. I mean, it is.
It goes back to my Air Force days. So as an Air Force intelligence officer, I got the chance to work at the Air Force Weapons School, so commonly known as Top Gun. And you couldn't get things wrong there, right? I mean, I was the chief of current operations for the electronic warfare division. And we were up on the Nellis Range just north of Las Vegas. And as these, new pilots are coming in, top of their class, right? And they're fighting sort of the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And we're jamming them with electronic communications.
So you're like on what, like mics or like?
Oh
like
yeah. I'm
kind of telling them how to.
I'm in the war room, and I've got a team of about 30 guys and girls that are up on the Nellis Range, up in the mountains, mm-hmm. and they're operating former stolen Soviet and Warsaw Pact equipment mm-hmm. that we've stolen from the bad guys, right? This is back in the 80s, 90s, mm-hmm. and we're using that equipment that our pilots would face in a real world situation, and training them to fly, fight, and win in a hostile electronic combat environment. So that was, that you don't get things wrong when you're in that type of situation. Details matter, and details that's sort of, I think, that's
that kind of molded you
to where I am now.
Why you're so detailed in everything that you do. And
correct.
And so obviously, you made this, you made the dragon, you built the dragon, but you built this building, right? Mm-hmm. And all the tenant spots are now filled. I mean, I know you took us on a tour, but talk about the process of not just building the building, but getting tenants to come and believe in your work, and your investors in this building, and what was your passion? What was your journey to that?
Well, it's I started as an Air Force officer, mm-hmm. and then left in 2000, went to PricewaterhouseCoopers. And there wasn't a whole lot of experience out in the marketplace for information warfare, mm-hmm. Information security back in the day. In fact, it wasn't even really called information security back in 2000. But I had some experience. So Pricewaterhouse hired me, and then subsequent to that, one of my clients, Fidelity Investments, ended up hiring me to run information security for one of the largest mutual fund companies in the world.
Yep.
But here's the deal: I was never passionate about it. Mm-hmm. And I think people can tell when you're passionate, mm-hmm. right? People can tell when you're not passionate. People can tell. And I did well. Mm-hmm. Went back to business school in 2004 down to Duke, and was there for 2004 and 2005, and did their global executive program. So traveled the entire world, with 85 of my classmates, which is an amazing experience. But I always knew that information security was not my destiny. It's not where the Lord wanted me to go, and I talk to a lot of young folks that today, and mm-hmm. I really start off with the question: what are you passionate about? Because a lot of these sort of kids, they want it now. It's this sort of movement, like we want it now. It's this sort of millennial sort of
would you tell them? So it sounds like to me you built your wealth first, and then you chase your passion. I mean, is there an order that you
Yeah, I mean that was sort of easier, right?
Yeah.
To it was easier to have some money, right? It's always
Right.
the question always sort of come, how did you do this at 40 years old, right? I mean, I've got two sort of teenagers, mortgage, car payments, and then all of a sudden you decide you're going to become a real estate developer, and the date is actually sort of ingrained in my memory. It's December 28th, 2011. It was the day that I went into my kitchen. I told my wife I want to quit my job. And I just turned 40, and I said, you know what? I'm going to follow my passion. She goes, what's that? And I said, building Legos. She goes, that's a hobby. That's a hobby. I said, no, I think I'm gonna be a real estate developer. I mean, it's just like a big Lego set.
But it was like you had no previous experience in it. Or
Zero.
Nothing.
Zero.
Okay, yeah, that's crazy.
Other than when you were a kid. I mean,
Other than when I was
you were
a kid.
8 years old out here building
Lego, and I'd built Legos all the way up through that time. I mean, when I was 40, I mean, that was like
that was your past.
Oh yeah, I mean, it wasn't just when I was a
Yeah.
kid, right? I mean, I built Legos even when I was
Right.
40 years old. My kids into building Legos, and now actually my older daughter's a junior at Clemson. She's in civil engineering. My younger daughter's going to Clemson next year in construction sciences.
Oh, that's
I'd
amazing.
like to think that
You
real estate
influenced
development
them.
in the Legos sort of had something to do with that,
Kind of, but just
right?
it's harder to get products than.
Oh
than
yeah,
the-
but my
the
wife
Lego
was like,
products.
the scale of it is just
harder
so
to get
different,
supplies, right?
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I said, it's what I've got a lot of business experience, risk management, operations, sales. I just don't have the construction experience, and I'm going to hire some really good people to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was December 28th, 2011. On January 17th, about 3 weeks later, I toured the land that we're sitting on right now. And it was about 17 acres at the time, and put the land under contract, quit my job a few months later, and off I went in my real estate career.
Right.
What I will tell you is it was really hard. But, like I said, the advice that I give to kids now is you might not make money immediately, but if you're doing something you're passionate about, the money will follow.
Mhm.
Right.
It really
Right.
will. You'll have some struggles, some failures, but find what you're passionate about, and you'll be a success. And that is, I think, that sort of defined the last 11 years of my life.
Yep.
And I was successful. I
Right.
was making money, and I was nice things. But don't give me too much credit. My wife's a dentist, right? So we did have a second income.
Right.
Right.
So
That's
she did.
awesome.
I mean, she deserves more credit than anybody, because my wife believed in me. It was a little tough convincing her the first 3 weeks, but it was a few weeks,
Mhm.
right? And she
Mhm.
came around and she's like, all right, if this is what you believe in, this is what's going to make you happy, then we'll do whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
And we did it. And, I can't thank her enough for letting me go off on this journey that sort of led to not only a thriving Medici Development Partners, but also sort of the next sort of phase that's running sort of in parallel with Medici Development. And that's getting back to the Dragon and Fury Athletics,
Yep.
Right.
and starting this apparel company, which, is really focused on athletic headwear.
Right.
I really felt like there was a gap in the marketplace. When you sort of look at the headwear space, it's really sort of generic sort of hats that are all between $25 and $38.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, you're right. No,
Right? That's
yep,
it.
Yep. Yep.
And I said, I really believe that there was a market for a higher end product that wasn't generic, that was sport specific. The hat that I'm wearing today is our pickleball hat. It was designed by a world-class pickleball player.
You got the pickleballs inside of it.
Yeah, you get
I
the
see
little
that. I see
pickleballs
that.
there,
Look at that detail.
pickleball paddle.
The details is crazy.
So I just said, what you need for pickleball and tennis is different than what you need for golf and running. And we decided to build a company sort of around, world-class athletes designing hats for their sport, and getting, the premium materials.
Right.
Well, yeah,
And-
what makes it different? Like what?
Well,
you know?
so there's function and there's form.
Okay.
Right? So when you think about a building like this,
Yep.
there are beautiful buildings, and then there are functional buildings. I used to skew more towards the form. Right? How does it look?
Mhm.
Then you sort of wake up as a real estate developer and you realize how important function is. Right? You can have a pretty looking building, But if people can't move and get around,
So it's how does it flow?
How does it flow?
Yep.
So one of the things that I do is I actually build these buildings in Legos before I build them.
Right.
It makes sense.
So if you go up to my office, I have this building. It's 5 feet long.
Yep.
20,000 pieces of Legos. And
Amazing.
Kayvon's been
I've
up
seen
there
it. I've seen it.
Actually,
Yep.
I don't know if Darius, you might have seen it, but
You've been up there. I don't know if you've seen the Lego
I don't know if I
set,
saw the
though.
Lego
Yeah.
part.
yeah, it's pretty. It took about 4 months to build.
Wow.
And but it was important for me because this is a pretty complicated building. 4-story parking garage attached.
Mhm.
How do people sort of, all those sort of struggles you have when you go into a parking garage? You get to drive around, right?
Yeah.
And you find a spot, then you get to find the part. Where do I enter the building?
Mhm.
Every floor of the parking garage has 3 entrances into the building. So whether you're on the north side of the building on the 2nd floor, or you're on the west side on the 3rd floor, you have an entrance right there. So you don't have to walk anywhere.
You call it
Right.
function. I call it flow. So in our
flow.
business, right. In our
How does
business,
it flow?
it's the same thing. Like,
Right.
as I'm looking at a gym, I'm like, okay, how can I make this flow? I go to so many other facilities and the flow is off. And I'm like, it kind of stresses you out a little bit. I'm
It
sure
does-
you
it
do the
does
same
stress you
thing
out
if you go into a building and you can feel the flow is off, or you can see the flow is off, or it's hard to get in and out. It kind of stresses you out a little
Well,
bit.
yeah, and think about it. You make big investments. I mean, these buildings are not inexpensive, and you put this thing together only to all of a sudden get it wrong,
Mhm.
and then you're trying to figure out how to make it right.
Right.
So where I early sort of skewed towards sort of the flow and the function, I've sort of come back and shifted more to probably 60-40 function, 60% function. Just a little bit more important than sort of the flow. But the goal is to sort of marry those two and get them both at sort of an double A quality.
Did you learn that the hard way, or did you just naturally kind of right off, rip, kind of, talked about flow and function? It just kind of came to you.
No, it just took more time.
Yeah.
No, I think I knew early on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had a bit of a sort of a steeper learning curve when it came to the headwear.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw the first hat.
Right. Yeah. The first. Yeah. So I
saw the first hat.
The first hat. Yeah. The first series of hats were not good. We've got a few staff members that when they sort of do something sort of not so great in the office, we make them wear the
as a punishment?
Oh, as a punishment. Oh yeah. Yeah. We got one guy, Ben. We put one of those hats on his head, and he looks like Mickey the Dunce walking around. And it's got this big. It looks like it should have a propeller on the top of the head.
Hey, but you came a long way. It's not about where
we
you
have come a long way. We've
Yeah.
come. You got to break
It's not
a
about
few
where you
eggs to make
start.
an omelet,
Right.
Yep.
And we did that. But yeah, I mean, the key is marrying those two. And listen, of course, we had our failures, and it's not always easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it,
Mhm.
right? But you just have to have the resolve and the sort of fortitude sort of inside of you, and the drive, and the willingness to sort of never, like, we're going to fail, but we're never going to quit.
So
Yep.
before we dive into the hats even more, what was like your process in finding tenants? Because obviously, building it for as cheap as you can and look as nice as you can with the flow and the function, high standard is one thing, but then finding the tenants, and occupying the space is probably even harder, right?
So
Would you say?
Listen, every bit of it is hard.
Right.
Right? I mean, I wouldn't say that there's anything that's sort of easy about it. The sort of standard way in the industry is when you have a building like this, multi-tenant, multi-floor, Class A is you hire a broker, and they list the building for you, and then you have tenant reps that represent the larger tenants. It's a little different when you're talking about a Class A office building. Most of your tenants are more seasoned. In this building we have, several Fortune 200 companies that are here. So they're more seasoned, they're more savvy, they're more experienced. They'll have their own sort of internal real estate team that works with their tenant rep that's charged with going and finding properties that sort of match their requirements.
Okay.
But I've never done things sort of the corporate standard industry way. When I started when I was 40 years old, I was given a lot of advice from a lot of seasoned developers. It's pretty much the same thing. Why don't you start small? Start small, get your feet wet, do sort of a little project and then sort of work your way up. I felt like that would have been fine if I were 25, but I was 40. Right. I just felt like I didn't have the time to do that. And I just said, we're going to go big. So my first project was the Cambria Hotel and designing that and as part of this.
Which is not this building, but the building.
Right next door.
Right next door, yep.
So I went through the process, got it zoned, designed, and then ultimately ended up selling that to another hotel developer out in California.
How many square foot is that whole?
So that the floor plate for that hotel is about 30,000 square feet.
30,000, okay, yep.
There's 175 keys, 175 rooms, 10 suites. There's a 5,000 square foot conference center and then a 3-meal restaurant and bar. But ultimately, I decided I really didn't want to be in the hotel business. Yeah. So I ended up selling all of that to that developer. But I watched the way that building came out of the ground in my development of Kimball Park. And I got extremely frustrated because first of all...
And this was your first project?
This was the first project in my development of Kimball Park. So Kimball Park was originally 15 and a half acres. It's now 17 and a half acres. We added 2 acres later. But when I saw that coming out of the ground, I was like, I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't do it that way. Mm-hmm. And I kept getting told over and over, well, that's just the way we do it.
Right.
I'm like, that doesn't seem very user-friendly, functional. Doesn't seem like if I were doing that, it just doesn't seem efficient. Right. So I said, I'm never selling again. Never selling my plans. I'm never selling my work. I'm gonna be the one that goes vertical. So I ended up doing the 4-story Class A office building right next to the Cambria, and it was the first project that I'd ever taken on that came out of the ground. And there were a lot of naysayers. Said, "Oh, you got to start small. You can't do 4-story tilt wall Class A. You've never done that." I'm like, we're doing it. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud to say through a lot of hard work and a lot of great team members that just yeoman's work to get that project done. We came in on time and on budget. She came in a little under budget.
Right. And that's kind of why we started this podcast, is to tell people, hey, just get started, right? Because the transition from sport to the real world is tough. But and one thing that Darius always says is just pick something and get started. Yep. So but how tough was it for you? Because I know you had to raise money for that. And you don't have to tell the whole process with that. But how tough was it your first time, building something to actually convince the investors, right? And what type of process and what process did you go to actually convince them? I know you always tell me the story about, your coffee mug.
Yep. Oh yeah. So the coffee mug stories are good. So,
let's hear it.
So I'll tell you the coffee mug story, but I'll start or preface it by saying, when I did the first building, it's about $6.5 million raise, capital raise for cash, for equity. This building was about $9.5 million. The first $6.5 million for the first building that I did took about 6 months to raise the money. This building took 48 hours, and I was overfunded.
It's because of that first.
Well, the first building, the economics were such that, to convince individuals who are fairly seasoned people, it was more of a sort of a friends and family or friends of friends. So we had a large number of investors, took no institutional money. So it was a bunch of folks that basically put in between about $100,000 and $300,000. But they needed some pretty good returns. Mm-hmm. So my pro forma was 32.4% IRR over 5 years. And I'm happy to say that as we sit here sort of 5 years later, we're about 44% annualized returns. So we've really knocked it out of the park. I mean, we got really blessed because the day that we broke ground, we already had 61,000 of the 112,000 square feet leased before we put a shovel in the ground. And then we got to 100% leased within a couple of years. So our pro forma was really solid. We were able to refinance early, be able to pull some money back out and get the investors made whole. So it worked out really well. But trying to sit in a room sort of like this
Yeah.
and convince friends and family to put money in.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that first meeting, we had about 15 people in the room. And I knew probably half of them. The other half were friends of the other people in the room. And there's an individual, very well-known person in DFW. I won't mention his name, but I'd never met him before. And we, actually that's not true. I'd met him before, but I wouldn't consider him a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I just rocked it. I mean, I think I just nailed this presentation. And I'm feeling really good. And he's the first, I say, are there any questions? And he raises his hand. Now, one of the things that I do before every presentation that I give is I think about the top 10 objections that I am most likely going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And I spend an inordinate amount of time prepping for those 10.
That's the Air Force background, I can imagine.
So I think okay, these are the 10 most likely questions. And I literally write down my answers and think about them, because my take is if you have to search for answers to routine questions, the questions that are likely to come,
I won't believe it.
What's the taste in the people's mouths are going to be, right? I mean, like, I asked a question, it's pretty like generic and expected. And the answer just took too long.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really methodical about it. So the question comes, Jeff, hey, the presentation was great. The numbers look solid. I just have one concern. And I go, what's that? He goes, I'm concerned that you're so in love with this project that you're never going to sell. The good news for me was that was one of my 10. Because I've been told that I'm very passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
And that can come across as never willing to part with your projects. So I was prepared for that. So I looked at him and I said, let me tell you a story. In 2008, I was in the Marriott Marquis at Times Square in New York. And I'm rushing through to the airport, but I want to grab a coffee at Starbucks. And I look over and I see this little mug. This little Starbucks mug had a picture of the Statue of Liberty on it. I'm like, that's kind of a cool mug. So I bought the mug. So I get back to Dallas and I'm walking to baggage claim and I pass Starbucks and I look and they've got one for Dallas and Fort Worth. And I'm like, it's kind of a cool little collection to start. I mean, I travel a lot for work. So I buy those mugs. Well, next thing you know, I've got several hundred mugs. And I've hired an artist to actually make me a display for my house. So we get to about 250 mugs. And my wife's like, what are you going to do with all these things? I mean, they're just sort of all over the place. They're in a display, but I mean, they're sort of everywhere. I'm like, I don't know, but I love my mugs. Mm-hmm. So I come to find out there are people that love these Starbucks mugs more than I do. So I start looking online, and on eBay, there's a mug that I have that's like on there for quite a bit of money. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I think I'm going to put this out on eBay and see what I get. So 2 days later, I sell Los Cabos for $909.
Oh my gosh! How much did you buy it for?
Mug that bought $12.
Come on now.
And I sell it for $909. So I call up my best friend.
Is that like a 90X or something?
No, it just happened to be. It was sort of a unique Starbucks mug that they don't make anymore, and it was made in Mexico, and they normally make them in China or Thailand. It was just sort of the special mug. You never sort of know, right?
Yeah.
So I call up my best friend in Memphis, and I go, Neil, never gonna believe this. I sold my mug, one of my mugs, for $909. Now, most people's reaction, like, oh my God, you made $909, that's all. His first reaction, he knows me so well, he goes, I can't believe you sold your mugs. You love your mugs. Mm-hmm. And then I looked right at the guy that asked me the question, and I go, I love my mugs, but I love money more. He ended up putting in $500,000.
Okay, yeah.
Whoa, just like
$500,000. Yep.
That's amazing.
So preparing for that question and being able, because I'm going to tell the story about the mugs.
Yeah.
Right here.
Right.
Right. It wasn't, it was sort of semi-scripted, but I wasn't going to talk about it unless that question came to me.
Right, exactly.
Right. So preparing and being thoughtful, about the questions you're going to get, about what's important to people that are helping you be a success. I think about those things sort of, whether it's, my team members. I do try to, do right by them. But they're the sort of the judge, right? I tell people, I never like telling people who I am, right? So we're in a podcast, so I'm telling you all the things I think I am. But ultimately, I'm not the judge. I tell folks, listen, you're not going to hear me tell you how honest, how much integrity I have, how much loyalty I have, how high a character I have. I'm a high character person. I tell folks, I might think I'm all those things, right? But I just met you. Now, you guys have met before, right? But when I'm in a first meeting, that's what I tell them. I said, we'll sit down a year from now. We'll go to Starbucks in the building on the other side of the building here. We'll sit down and have a cup of coffee, and you tell me who I am. Because that's way more important, right? Than me trying to convince you in a first meeting, that I'm all those things. Right. You don't know who I am. And I will tell you, in the real estate business, I don't have enough fingers and toes to tell you how many people have told me how high character they are, how loyal, how honest, how much integrity they have in a first meeting. And I had to learn my lesson with this very, very early on. And now my advice is, I tell people, run.
Right.
Like that's a
red flag.
That's a red flag for me.
Yep.
So
kind of let your work
exactly.
speak for itself.
That's exactly it should never be the first thing out your mouth, telling people.
I personally don't trust anybody if they're boasting about themselves. It's like they're probably defending something.
Right.
That's what it tells me. So.
Man, it's just like people, back in the day, like, yeah, I'm the realest person you ever met. Okay.
Well,
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Well, I think that's one of the reasons why early on it was really hard, because, you've got some people in the room that know you. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of people in that room that don't know you, and you're trying to sort of navigate between those two, right? So do you tell them how great you are? Half the people in the room, hopefully, you get some experience with you, so they can vouch for you, and that helped. But when people are parting with money and they're giving it to somebody they never met before,
right?
They need a lot of incentive, right? Because how great is the deal, right?
Exactly.
And that's why it was so easy for the second one, and future ones, right? That now I get a track record. I have the skin on the wall. I mean, I met with 25 banks the first time I wanted to get funding for that project. It was $25.5 million, right? And you're going and trying to get a $19 million loan. You've never done it before. And I mean, 24 of the 25 were like, Jeff, listen, we love you. We think you got a great plan. You've got tenants that are coming and are committed, but you've never done it before. So, call us when you got one done.
Right. How was your confidence going into a meeting like that? I mean, you have no experience with developing. Did you fake it till you make it? Or did you just have so much confidence, you did so much homework that you just knew if you did it right, it would work out for you?
At 40, I had enough experience to know that sometimes, I mean, there's sort of the old adage, like you just work it to death, right? You just work your rear end off, and it'll happen, and you'll be able to convince people. There's some people that just can't be convinced. It's not in their model to be convinced, right? They need to see it all. Like, you need to check every box, and I respect that. Then there's other, models out there where they're gonna take a little bit more risk, and maybe you don't have to check every single box. To say that it wasn't disheartening every time I went in and met with a bank and they said no. I mean, after 22, 23, it's.
Mm-hmm. Man, I know that can get a little depressing for a minute.
Yeah, it's definitely depressing. But I knew that we had the right plan, and I knew that I just needed to find the one. My dad gave me some advice when I went to college, and his advice was, it just sort of stuck with me. It's like, you're going down to Clemson, and I was up at a small private boarding school up in Massachusetts. So, I mean, polar opposites, right? I mean, 500 kids, boarding students. I mean, I was away from at home. I moved from home at 14.
Right.
So, then I go down to Clemson. How many kids down at Clemson in South Carolina you think were boarding students for the last 4 years? I never met a single one, not one, in my 4 years, right? So I have this advantage of all these other freshmen, 4,000 freshmen, none of whom have ever lived away from home. And I've been gone for 4 years at 18 years old, right? And so I, right there, I had a little confidence. Because I sort of knew, I mean, I lived in this is my 5th year in a dorm, not my first.
Right.
Right. So you know, I gained some confidence there. And my dad, the advice that he gave me was, he goes, Jeff, never feel sort of like when you see a pretty girl, don't think that sort of she's above you or like you can't attain, because all you need is one.
Right.
So ask out 30 of the best looking girls you can find. All you need is one. And I was like,
is that how you got your wife?
That's how I got my wife. Oh yes. Are you kidding me?
She was number one though. She was the first one.
She's one of one forever. Right? We've been married. So she was an Air Force dentist.
Okay.
So she was what we called the dentist. We called her the dentist to the stars. So she was an Air Force captain, dentist in the Pentagon. So my last assignment, I was in the Pentagon, and she was the dentist for all the generals in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. So if you were a general, which is sort of a big rank, right? Mm-hmm. And you were in the Pentagon, you didn't want to have your teeth worked on, you know, in Alexandria or Arlington, right? You wanted your teeth worked on right in the Pentagon. So you just walked down the hall, and there was this little Air Force Pentagon dental clinic, and she ran it with with a hygienist and an assistant.
Right.
And one day I'm in my office in the A-ring of the Pentagon, and she just all of a sudden walks right by my office. And I was like, wait, what is that? A little blonde and scrubs? Like, that's very unusual, right? In the Pentagon to see a woman wearing scrubs. Normally everybody's in sort of Class A uniforms. And but that's one way going the way she went. So she got to come back.
Oh, you knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there sort of fake typing, sort of like looking out the corner of my eye, and all of a sudden she sort of breezes by again. I'm like, wait, who's that? So I jump up, I walk, and there's a couple offices down there. I walk, I'm like, who is that? Another colleague of mine, Captain Bursey, goes, that was Captain Jones. I said, I got to meet Captain Jones. And she
shot your shot.
And she goes, good luck. This is February. This is February 1998. She goes, good luck. She's got a permanent change of station. She's going back for specialty dental training back in San Antonio in May. And I'm like, February, May, 90 days. I'm like, I can't. I don't know if I can make that work. Right? It's really tough to say, you know, I'm not going to go on this assignment. So it was about 3-4 weeks later, and I'm sitting in my little townhome in Old Town Alexandria, and my phone rings. I'm not going to lie, I'm in my boxers and a t-shirt watching Seinfeld, and the phone rings, and it's a colleague of mine, and that same colleague that I'm in the office with, and she goes, hey, listen, a friend of mine, I just finished a run, and we're at this sort of local bar. You want to come up for a drink? And I'm going to tell you right now, I thought long and hard. Like, I'm really comfortable. 7 o'clock at night, I'm just relaxing. I'm watching Seinfeld, but I'm like, I just moved here from Las Vegas. All right, I'll go. So I jump in the shower, changed, rolled down to the bar, and I walk in, and it's the girl. It's the dentist.
Right.
It's destiny.
And I was like, now I only have 2 months to work this.
Mm-hmm.
We spent 5 hours talking in the bar that night. And within, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, we were saying, I love you. And she said she didn't want to go.
And the rest is history.
We got married 1.5 years later, and we've got 2 beautiful daughters from it. We've married, coming up on our 24th anniversary.
That's amazing.
And just, she's been amazing.
So before we transition to talk about more about Fury Athletics, I want to stay on this topic a little bit, because you told me a story previously, about, how you guys, or how you sat her down and wrote, you had her write down everything that she wanted. All of us is kind of in the same boat, right? He's about to get married.
Yep.
I'm married. I've been married for almost 4 years now, and we're entrepreneurs, right? So, it's hard to find the balance, right? You know what I mean? And being on the same page with your wife, about what you guys want for your life together, and then her understanding what it takes to actually get that, right? So I want you to talk about the balance a little bit, or if there's ever truly, a 50-50 balance between,
It's never 50-50.
And then also the story you told me
So it's all right. So I'll sort of start at the beginning. So when we were my family's Catholic, so is my wife, but my family's Catholicism sort of history goes back, to the 1400s. Medici family has 4 popes in the family.
It's amazing.
I mean,
That's crazy.
I had to ask him beforehand. Like, did he use Ancestry.com or how do you know this?
No,
it's just passed down. That's a strong family.
Yeah, I mean, it's Renaissance history is sort of littered with Medici family members throughout
beautiful.
time.
That's so dope.
And so I've been, my wife's Catholic, I was Catholic, and when just before we got married, so they get married in the Catholic Church, they make you run the sort of gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, at the time, I was like, this is gonna kill me. I mean, every Saturday, we had to go in for confession. I mean, our priest was old school.
Mm-hmm.
Go to confession every Saturday. Then on Sunday, you got to go to mass. But he said, you've got to come, Father McBeardy in Arlington, Virginia. He's like, at the end of mass, I want you to come up and shake my hand and make sure I know you're here.
Right.
So you got to go shake his hands and make sure you're there.
Mm.
And then every Monday night, you got to go in for marriage counseling with the priest. So that was our weekend trifecta, right? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, for 9 months, right? We got engaged in October.
For 9 months straight.
9 months straight.
Every weekend.
Every weekend. And then the topper was we had to go to this pre-Cana weekend out at this little girls' boarding school out in the Shenandoah Valley for a weekend. And that weekend, so you're out there with about 25 other couples, and they bring 3 couples out there. One who's been married for a year, one who's been married for 5, and one who's been married for 20 or 25 years. And it's separate, it's 2 days long, and they separate it into these blocks of instruction. So an hour for finance, an hour for family, an hour for children, work, balance.
That's expensive.
Right? Oh yeah. And trust me, not every couple made it.
Yeah.
Not every couple made it.
Would they just tap out?
So what you do is for that hour, so you have 20 minutes where those 3 couples talk about their experiences with that topic.
Okay.
Then they send you off by yourself, just you, and you have to write down answers to questions. And then the last 20 minutes, you have to share your answers with your spouse, your future spouse. I mean, it's designed to stress, right? It's also designed to make sure that there are no secrets going forward about what's important, right? To make sure you're on the same page. And if you're not on the same page, then there needs to be a discussion, right? And it's just sort of like setting expectations is the most important thing, right? My wife has no problem with me flying down with my best friend to go to a Clemson game whenever I want. You know why? Because we were doing it before we were married, and it was, I told my wife, this is what we do.
That's awesome.
Right? And so setting expectations is really, really important. So I think that was just really instrumental in starting our marriage off on the right foot. I will tell you, not every one of the 24 years has been great. Year 1 was brutal. I mean, we'd moved from Washington, D.C. to Boston, where my family is. And I love my family, but being so close to them was not great for us.
Right.
Very stressful. And then year 6 was really stressful. I'm getting my MBA and I'm traveling all over the world: Moscow, Beijing, Bangkok, Sao Paulo, Rio, Buenos Aires. I mean, I'm all over. I'm leaving, right? And my kids, my second daughter was born while I was, basically while I was traveling. I was there for the birth, but 2 weeks later, I'm in Moscow, right? My wife's trying to start a dental practice. A lot of stresses, right? And my wife was not happy. She was not happy. And I wasn't really happy. This is 5 years in, we got a 2-year-old, an infant, and trying to start a dental practice.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. The problem was I didn't realize that I was the taker in that relationship. But I was.
The taker, explain that.
Well, in any relationship, there's a giver and a taker at any point in time, right? People are wired to be takers. Some people are wired to be givers. My wife is a giver. She's an extraordinary giver. I am a taker. That works well, but only for a period of time. Eventually, all givers snap. You got to give the giver something.
Yep.
So what happened was in 2005. So we were, I mean, it was really rough, and or 2006. So I was finally like, I never believed I was a taker. Right. Most takers don't.
So first you had to come to that
yeah,
conclusion.
no,
like,
oh
hey.
no, but trust me, when I even then I never believed I was a taker. So I did what I did. So I went in the other room, I got a piece of paper, I got a pen, and I said, here's what I want you to do. And I slid the piece of paper over to her and I said, I want you to write down all the things that I'm not giving you that you think that you need from me. Right? And I need you to give me a year. Give me a year, I'll give you everything on that list. And if after a year, I've given you everything on that list and you're still upset and still unhappy, then we'll talk about what needs to happen. You know, what the next step is.
That's deep. That's deep.
I was so confident I was going to give her all this and she was still going to be upset. She went in the other room. She didn't write just one, she flipped it over and kept writing. Seriously.
Yeah, she went crazy.
Now I told her, I said, you can't write anything on here that I can't do. Like you can't say, well, I really want to marry a guy who's 6'5", not 6'1", right? I really want you to make I want $1 billion. Like you can't do, and she was fair. Mm-hmm. First thing on her list, I hate living in Massachusetts. I grew up in Texas. I want to live where it's like we don't have snow from October to April. I'm sitting here going, I just got promoted to vice president at Fidelity. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
She just started a dental practice. I mean, it was a year old. You know how hard it is to sell a dental practice? Okay. And then a whole other list of things that I hadn't given her. So 1 year later, we're sitting about 1.5 miles that way from this building in our new house, moved to Texas, got a new job, sold the dental practice, and we're sitting there having a glass of wine. We have a little fire pit outside of our house by the pool, and we're having a glass of wine. And I take out my wallet, and I get the piece of paper. We hadn't talked about this in a year. And I give it to her. And she opens, like, unfolds, and she's like, oh my God. And she just starts bawling.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at her and I'm like, it took this for me to realize how much I had been taking from you. And it was the first time in my life, like I realized like how much joy I get in giving. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me, she was like, I've never been happier. And she's like, giving, I mean, when you give, it makes the other person want to give to you.
Right, yeah.
And what had happened was, you know, I had taken so much that my wife she's like, you know, then my wife would want something. I'd be like, no, too expensive. No. Mm-hmm. What are the kids going to do if you're gone for a weekend?
Right.
And then it made her sort of not want to give to me anymore.
Right.
And then it made me definitely not want to give, right? So it was this cycle that we got in that was just not healthy. And that year taught me a huge lesson because the more I gave, the more she wanted to give to me. And then all of a sudden I want to give more to her. And then she wanted to give more to me. And at the end of the year, I had given all this stuff to her, but I felt better. And I felt like she'd given way more. Like, I mean, I was happier, the happiest that I had ever been in my life. And that was 2006, 2007. It was 15 years ago. My wife and I have not had a bad year since.
That's beautiful.
I don't think we had a bad month. Seriously. And it's, you know, you have to learn those sort of lessons. And I'm still the taker. Mm-hmm. I'm still wired that way, but I at least I recognize. So when I fall into sort of those tendencies,
right.
I do try to like go, all right, no, this person needs something mm-hmm. from me. I need to give, right? My time, my energy, whatever it is. And I try to make sure I take time in my day to think about what others need from me and how I can give to them. So it's worked out a lot better the last 15 years than it did before that.
That's just dope.
I appreciate you sharing that because that probably really helped a lot of people. Seriously,
that's
deep. And then I mean, it just shows how you guys built, you know, this team. You know, for you to chase your passion. You know, maybe in 2006, if you said something like, "Hey, I'm done. I'm building Legos,"
Yep.
she might have not been as supportive, you know, and then for you guys to just build and build and build and her to believe in you and you to put her in an environment where she's comfortable and thriving and it's a blessing for you as well.
Yep.
You know, it's just beautiful for you to realize that and then follow through with it. You know, you're a man of your word.
Listen, the words might be different, but you got to be on the same page, right? If you're on the same page with your spouse, your partner, you might write the words a little differently, but at least you're on the same page.
Right, right.
And that's sort of my wife is, I mean, I'm black and white. My wife's gray. And she doesn't like to rock the boat, not super opinionated. I am, right? But I never valued that. And I honestly think my wife never sort of valued the black and white nature that I am. Because she wasn't, again, going back to this, she wasn't wired that way. But over 24 years, I have come to value her being in the gray. And I think she's come to value me being black and white. There's a time for gray and there's a time for white and there's a time for black. And it's just sort of understanding that and appreciating, you know, the other person and what they have to give. And I think we've been a really, really good team. And there've been times when I've been like, are you sure you want to do that? And she's like, yep. I'm like, all right, let's roll.
Yeah.
Right,
and we'll figure it out.
Right.
And it's not the way I would have done it, but it works.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't work all the time, just like a lot of stuff I do doesn't work all the time. But you know, you sort of find some sort of common ground, and I think it's what's really hard in today's sort of world is everything's so polar, right? You're either on the right, the left, this, that. Like you can't, and it's like, can we not just sort of find some common ground there?
Right, right.
Yep.
And I think that's, you know, that's healthy for a marriage, and I think it's just healthy for society.
You're right about that. There's always some sort of argument or some sort of a debate for something. You know, like, hey, let's just try to work together. Like that's how God made us to work together.
Well, it's the hill that you die on, right? Like
100%.
My wife and I talk about this all the time. Like, honey, is this the hill that you're going to die on? Right? Are you really going to die on this hill? And I'm like, no.
So that's like the final straw.
Like,
hey.
No. Right? Because I mean, there really should. I mean, it just seems like in society today, you're dying on every hill.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're not getting anything done, right? So like like with my marriage, my person I'm closest with in the entire world, I'm like, that should be reserved for just a few things, right? And those things we talked about back in 1999 before we got married. Right. I mean, I told her first date. I said, "What are your deal breakers?" She looked at me. She's like, "We're doing this now on our first date."
You set the tone.
I said, well, "Let's get it out.
Set the tone.
Let's get it out there." She goes, "All right. Well, my husband's got to be taller than me, and you got that check mark. And my future husband's got to take me around the world. I grew up in Little Lytle, Texas. I want to see the world." I'm like, "Oh, I think I can do that." She said, "What are your deal breakers?" I said, "Well, I'm Catholic, so you got to take my last name." She goes, "Well, the good thing is my mom's maiden name's Pellegrino, so I got half Italian, right? So Medici, I'm good with Medici." She goes, "What's the other one?" I said, "My kids have to go to Clemson." And she goes, "What's Clemson?" And I go, "Check, please." I was literally like, I can't, there's no way I can be a party.
She knows now, though. Dabo.
And she's like, "No, isn't it like some, no, this is 99.
Dabo made y'all relevant.
This was back in Tommy Bowden's era." Okay, so,
get it right.
We were not,
bad.
this is no, Bowden might have been, Dabo, I don't even know where he was. He might have still been at Alabama.
Yeah, he's a player.
But yeah, so, and she's like, "Well, isn't that some sort of, they play football there?" I'm like, "All right, we can keep this going for a little bit." She's like, "Well, listen, if you're that passionate and this ends up in a marriage, our kids can go to Clemson." And I was like, "Okay." Right. So my kids are at Clemson.
That's awesome.
So before we wrap up, I do want to put more emphasis on Fury Athletic.
Yeah.
You know, because I know that's your newfound passion now. You know, and that's what this whole podcast is about, is bringing awareness to guys who transition and trying to find a passion and stuff like that. How'd you find that passion? What stage are you guys in now? Where are you guys at with Fury Athletics? I know You guys just got 2 new brand ambassadors,
Yeah, we
right?
did.
That,
We
that
did.
both play for the Cowboys. So, yeah, if you don't mind touching on where is Fury Athletics at now?
Let me tell you this. First thing I'll say is building a building like this is easier than building a hat company, right? It just is. Apparel is just a really hard space. Thankfully, we're sort of more focused on headwear, so there's sort of less sort of players in that space.
Mm-hmm.
They're more sort of generic than they are really sort of focused. There's not a whole lot of companies out there that are there are apparel companies that have headwear. I mean, Nike, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They've got hats, but that's not their principal focus. So when I set out to do it, I said, we're going to be focused. Now, eventually, might we get to pullovers and t-shirts and tank tops?
Hey, your polos is nice, man.
They're nice.
Yeah.
But right now we want to stay focused, on what sort of makes us different. And the first it started when I was on vacation, basically on the other side of the world. I'm sitting there looking at the hat, and I'm like, it's a 6-panel, and I'm like, you know what? I just kept seeing the X.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? Most hats right now, you don't know what kind of hat it is. You only know the logo on the front, whether you've played at your local country club or it's a Dallas Cowboys. You don't know what kind of hat it is.
Right.
So I said, we're going to build this company where all of our hats have the X. That way we can give up the front panel. It can be whatever logo you want, but everybody knows the quality of that hat because it's got the X. And it's great. We go to the Celtic Carroll football games, and we just look in the stands, and you can see all the Fury hats from 100, 200 feet away,
mm-hmm.
right? Because you can see that X. So that was really important to me. So when we launched the company, I'll tell you, the first generation product that we had in August of 2021 wasn't good. There's a whole sort of host of reasons that sort of went into that. But we sort of figured out, what was wrong and why it was wrong, and sort of found our way, and took us about a year. And then the end of Q4 of 2022, we launched our second generation of hats. And most of our hats are all waterproof, water resistant hats. So premium materials, fixing all those little things that were wrong. We started with 2 great brand ambassadors that have sort of been there. I wanted folks who were a part of the team that had been there and done that at a professional level. So, Brent Jones, 3-time Super Bowl winner with San Francisco. We had Mark Knowles, 5-time Olympian for the Bahamas, won all 4 Grand Slams, including Wimbledon in tennis. And then our 2 newest brand ambassadors, CJ Goodwin and Jordan Lewis, right? 2 Dallas Cowboys players.
Yep.
So we're really excited to have those guys, a part of the brand ambassador team.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we've got, over 35, B2B clients, our customers. Some of the, some great names. I mean, we've got, Albany down in the Bahamas, the Ritz-Carlton. We're making hats for them, KPMG. We just won a couple of new deals, the Greenbrier in West Virginia. So some premium brands
Right.
that are seeing the value and seeing the quality and saying we need that as, in our pro shop, in our gift shop. So it's been really exciting to see the explosive growth. And in our office, we have a flag for every single one of our wins. So to see that flag, that sort of list of flags on the wall grow every day, it's just been really, really exciting. So
awesome.
I think the sky's the limit for us. We're sort of entering our phase 2 where we're sort of, really ramping up our growth and our ability to deliver to our customers. But all of our hats now come sort of unbranded. We don't have our brand on the front. I wear this, of course, because I'm repping the Fury Athletics.
Right.
Yeah.
But they all sort of come blank, and our ability to respond to the customer, because we have these our blank sort of styles and range of different colors, but we can get these hats to them really low. I mean, somebody wants one hat, okay, we'll make the logo, we'll send you one hat.
Mm-hmm.
People are just shocked when we tell them. They're like, wait, what?
Right.
Quality.
Right. So we, when we need, logos that are a little bit more sort of detailed, we have them made overseas, and they send us the PVC, and then we put the PVC on right here. If they want to put a Texas flag right here, a Bahamian flag, whatever, we can put it on right here, and we can keep the order counts really low, and get it out to them really quickly. So, they don't have these big, long, extended lead times, 4 or 5 months, right? We can do it in one day.
We got to get that on the PGA Tour ASAP.
We're working on it.
We got to get the ASAP on there.
We're working. The hat is, that was another thing. So I got to caddy on the PGA Tour for my uncle back when I was younger, in 15 or 20 events. And he taught me that the most valuable real estate on a PGA Tour player is right there. So it's also the most expensive real estate, right? It's so we'll get there. We'll get there.
100%. And lastly, I know I said that was the last point, but we do have to wrap up with the word engineer serendipity. So I know we met with engineer serendipity, kind of, because you was walking out, at Jordan Lewis' party. Yeah. I came in there and that was engineer serendipity as well too. You told me the word. Yep. I know we talked about it a lot because I told you the word and you've been telling other people the word.
I've been relaying it.
Or not the word, but the phrase. So touch on engineer serendipity, a little bit, just because I think that's very, very important, especially when guys are trying to transition. Like, you have to put yourself in the position to be successful, right?
Yeah. So engineered serendipity is a sort of a phrase that was sort of given to me by my best friend, who's also a partner in Fury Athletics. He told me we were talking about luck, and I think it's easy for folks to say you were lucky. Mm-hmm. Oh, you were just in the right place at the right time. I don't really like to use the word luck. I mean, listen, you win the lottery is probably luck, right? But I think luck is overused. And I think it's putting yourself in a situation to be lucky, right? So the story of how we sort of met, right? We have an event up on the top floor patio, and it's Jordan Lewis's birthday. And his wife rents out the space. There's a bunch of Cowboys players up there. My office is actually right next to the lounge. And I was like, I own an athletic apparel company, and I've got 20 Dallas Cowboys players on the other side of this wall. I'm going in, I'm saying hello. And I walk out onto the patio, and the Dragon's down, in the plaza below. And I'm like, hey guys, how y'all doing? And I'm like, great. I'm like, how do you like my Dragon? And listen, not bashing any of the other guys. A bunch of the guys were like, yeah, it's all right. One guy though, CJ Goodwin, says, that's your Dragon?
Yeah, but that's sad. That guys was just like, yeah, it's all right. Like,
yeah, it's all right.
And that's a phase.
No, it is what it is. I mean, like, I don't blame him for anything, but there was one guy who said, wait, that's your, and that one response, I mean, CJ's, now an ambassador for Fury.
Yep.
He was the one that told me.
Right.
Yep.
So CJ and I start talking for 10 or 15 minutes, ends up almost ruining the birthday surprise because he comes into my office, he's looking at the Lego set, which is right by the elevators, and almost ruins it for Jordan's surprise birthday. But the first thing he says is he goes, there's a guy in that room that you need to meet. You know who that guy was? That guy right there.
Kayvon Frazier.
He said, you need to meet Kayvon.
Yep.
So it's the end of so I come back in, it's the end of the night, everybody's gone, and all of a sudden we hear this knock. We have a door that separates my office from the Fury Athletics office in the lounge, and we just hear this. I'm like, I go up to the door. It's my man Kayvon.
He's going to act on the opportunity, just know that.
And he comes in.
Well, we go
just know that.
We spend 20 minutes talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then the next morning he sends me a text message, can we get together?
Yep.
That was 5-6 months ago,
yep.
Right? But it all was I lucky? And some people might say, oh, you were lucky. Well, I'll tell you, I was lucky that CJ was in the spot that he was in.
Right, yep.
Right? Because if he was off getting a drink somewhere, there was that. But engineering serendipity, engineering the situations to give yourself an opportunity. It's not always going to work out.
Right.
But the more situations you put yourself in to be around people,
100%,
right, that can help you, or to be around people to help you gain more knowledge, right, to learn, to build relationships, right?
Yep. And that's what this wine club is. I mean, one of your tenants. I mean, this wine club, you guys, are members here, and I met you through this wine club, and I mean, it's a beautiful space, but it's all about relationships.
Yeah, but listen, the wine is fantastic. The ambiance is great, but I'll tell you right now, there's more deals getting done in these four walls.
Yeah.
And there's value in that.
It's
right?
value.
No question about it. It's not to take anything away from the wine, which is exceptional, or the service, or there's the atmosphere. But just being in a space like this, you hear things, you learn things. Next thing you know, you're sort of part of a deal. And,
right, exactly. Yep.
But it's it's getting up and taking the time to drive over and spend a little time.
Yep.
Sometimes you might not feel. I didn't feel like it back in 1998. I wanted to watch Seinfeld for a fifth time, episode for a fifth time. But I got up and said, let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that really has been. I'm glad you guys have taken to that term.
Yeah.
Because I really, really believe very strongly in it.
Man, well, all I know is it's been a privilege. It's been an honor to have you on. You really have some great insight today. I mean, you're an amazing person, but what you're doing is just, it's motivational. It's motivational. And we're excited to continue to build our relationship with you. But we want to give you opportunity to kind of give a shout out. Where can everybody follow you and keep up with your story and keep up with you?
So obviously we're on all the social media channels, but FuryAthletics.com is our e-commerce site. So you can go out there and you can buy all the Fury Athletics gear that you want, but you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook. If you want to reach out to me directly, sure you can find me out there.
Shoot them a DM.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot me a LinkedIn message or a DM on Instagram. So I'm pretty responsive.
That's awesome. Man. That's awesome. Well, we're looking forward to we got to get another episode. We got to keep up with the progress, but
definitely.
This was
Let
awesome.
me know anytime you want, and we can broadcast live from the Dragon, the big version of the Dragon.
Come on now.
Right?
Come on now.
I mean,
and we got to get that clip. We're gonna show the people. We got to
Okay.
show the people. But man, it's been once again, it was awesome talking to you today, and hopefully we'll have you on again
Thanks,
soon.
guys.
Already, most definitely.